So how do you live when you think the world is ending and it's getting darker and darker? That's what chapter 5 is all about. I call it the ultimate kingdom. In Revelation 5, God lets us see in the future him launching his invasion of earth that he promised in the Old Testament. The Old Testament's amazing, the more you read it. So let's start in chapter 5, and let me just walk you through the verses. There's some fascinating stuff here. By the way, for some of you, the rest of Revelation is really interesting. I mean, look at this. Only 2 angels and 2 demons are named in heaven. Have you ever thought of that? The strong angel probably refers to the meaning of the name Gabriel. Gabriel in Hebrew means the strong or mighty one. So if you're named Gabriel, your parents thought, a lot of you. It's the strength of God. Daniel 8:16 uses that word, the strength of God, for this angel, the one that brought the message to Mary, and talked to Joseph in the birth of Christ accounts. This is Gabriel. He is that angel. Other named angels are Michael, who is a bad angel, a demon, a fallen angel. And he's called Satan, and Apollyon. So we have Gabriel and Michael, the good guys, the good angels, the mighty angels. And next week I'm going to talk about angelology. It'll be really fun. But there's so much the Bible tells us that's fascinating, especially if you have a phonographic mind and you think in pictures, and you talk about it. But God's throne is here, and around the throne are 7 pillars that are burning. But if you put that together with what it says in other parts of Revelation, plus in Hebrews, those are probably the archangels. Because Jesus talked about them. He said the angels that always face God. Remember when Jesus said that there's joy in the presence of the angels of God when one soul repents and comes to salvation? What is this joy in the presence of the angels who face God? Actually, it says, and prosem before the face of God. What is that? Well, there are these 7 angels that the archangels they're all the way around the throne. They're always looking at God. They're ready to be sent off. They're ready. They're like clerks that work in the legislature, the pages. They just run off and do whatever. These are God's angels. We only know the names of 2 of them. Now, the Jewish people have named all 7. Raphael, and they have all these names. But we know the Bible says there's 2. Gabriel, mighty one. Michael, the prince. He seems to be the commander of the armies of God behind Christ. And interestingly enough, we know 2 bad angels' names. I'm talking about described in Revelation being in heaven. Apollyon, the destroyer, and Satan, formerly Lucifer, the devil, the dragon, the serpent, all those things. Very interesting that God doesn't, by the way, what people are named in heaven. I'm not talking about in Revelation 1-3, that's not heaven, where you have Antipas and all these others. I'm talking about in 4 onward, what people are mentioned by name. Very interesting. We'll cover that. As you're reading, you ought to look for that. Secondly, Jesus is forever the Lamb of God. In verses 5-7, Jesus is the Lamb. Look what it says in chapter 5, verse 5. And one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the scrolls and loose the 7 seals." And so John looks where they're pointing. And I looked, and behold, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 living creatures, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as though it had been slain. If I had a little lamb sheep here on the stage, what would I have to do to it to make it look like it had been slain? I would have to massacre it. I would have to cut it somehow so it would bleed and die. Jesus in heaven looks massacred. Have you ever thought that Jesus is going to look scarred and crucified? He doesn't come back all blonde-haired and perfect-skinned. His visage was marred more than anyone. They pulled his beard. They actually pulled it out and hurt his skin and scarred his face and pushed those giant spiky thorns down and mangled, the skin of his forehead and around his head. You ever seen someone that, Bonnie and I were at the grocery store, and the man that checked us out turned like this, and you could see that he had brain surgery because there was a as wide as your finger scar. The whole place that they cut him, pulled up his skull, took care of his tumor, and put it back down. And, you kind of notice things like that. Did you know what John notices? A lamb as though it had been slain. But he had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent into all the earth. So what are we talking about? Jesus will still bear the scars of his crucifixion, but he's the almighty sovereign in power with 7 eyes, which is his omniscience, and 7 horns, which is his omnipotence.